Welcome to another episode of Visions of BVA, brought to you by the Blinded Veterans Association. I'm Steve Baskis, and today we have a truly inspiring show lined up for you. We are joined by Jeanie and Robert Murphy, who will share their experiences of resilience in the face of significant life challenges. From medical crises and military service to personal loss, their stories highlight the vital role of the Blinded Veterans Association in providing support and fostering community. So stay tuned as we explore these powerful journeys of overcoming adversity together. Before we get started, I would like to make a public service announcement. If you're joining us for our Blinded Veterans Association National Convention, please register at the webpage bva.org/national-convention. We look forward to your participation. Now let's get back to the show. Could you each briefly share your journey and how you came to be involved with the Blinded Veterans Association Auxiliary?
Why don't we start with you?
Okay. Well, I became associated with the Blinded Veterans Association. Oh my goodness. I've been a lifetime member since 2006. I found out that I had a vision impairment, which I wasn't aware of at the time that I found it out. And I laughed because it is very humorous to me. I went in to just renew my driver's license, and the little eye exam you have to take at the counter. Well, I failed it with my right eye, and I had no idea. And so without going into great detail, because it was funny, the guy said, "You can't see." And I stated that I drove here, and okay, maybe I'm just older. I need to go get my eyes checked and get glasses. And that was not the case, unfortunately for me. However, I didn't think this was a permanent thing. So that being said, I went in to the optometrist, had my eyes checked with an eye chart, and the doctor came back with a very large
There was
book.
There was a couple of books, actually. I remember that.
He brought books and was, it was like encyclopedias. He was going through and telling me that I could have this or this. I would need to go see the ophthalmologist at the hospital right away. And of course, again, I did not think this was permanent. I thought they were going to go and check and see what was wrong with my eyes. It turns out that I have ocular histoplasmosis. It's a fungus that is not a disease. It's just a fungus that I contracted in my eyes. It only affects the eyes and the lungs, as I understand it, and there's not any in my lungs. That was in 1996, and back to being associated with the BVA. I did not go to a BRC, which is a blind rehab center, for 10 years of my diagnosis. I was diagnosed in 1996, and I attended my first blind rehab center in 2006. And that's where I heard of the Blinded Veterans Association. I didn't know a lot of anything. Of course, I was in the Army, and the Army ended up taking very good care of me during that time because I did not think it was permanent. They continued to try to find a resolving, either it was going to stay active or it was going to subside, and for 2 years. So the Army retired me in April of 1998. And I just didn't know there was a lot of information about being visually impaired. Unfortunately, I found out that my boss wanted me to stay in the office, but as they were working, trying to find out what I had, my vision surely decreased. Then I could see that I wasn't seeing the way I had been before being diagnosed with ocular histoplasmosis.
Well, thank you, Jeanie, for all of that. Robert, if you could chime in about your background, about your journey, and how you became involved with the Blinded Veterans Association and Blinded Veterans Association Auxiliary.
Yeah, so my background, just briefly, is the United States Army. I joined at 17 years of age in 1985 and retired at the age of 37 in September of 2005. And obviously, we're celebrating as of this month, like 32 years of marriage. So I became in contact with the Blinded Veterans Association through her exposure to it. And that was what, 2006?
2006.
Yeah, 2006. And even at that point, I wasn't aware of the auxiliary until 2019. I may have heard about it before then, but never really any direct contact with it until I went to the convention with her in 2019. And at that point, became a member of the auxiliary then. And so that's since 2019, I've been a member of the auxiliary.
Jeanie, can you share with us how you coped with the profound loss of your blindness?
I did have a very stressful situation in February of 1996. I was pregnant. I got pregnant in 1995, and this was a true blessing because we had tried, and I say we had tried to have children, but not really, because I had been told that I had some other issues and that I would probably never be able to have a baby, which was totally okay, because when I married Robert, he had a son. And I thought, this is great. The work is already done. And so I got pregnant and delivered our daughter in February of 96. That was a long, hard labor. And I think I was determined to have this baby. So it was an all-night, very stressful labor. And it was a hard pregnancy as well. I had some other issues. However, on February 16th of 1996, I gave birth to a beautiful little girl, Rachel Jeanie Murphy. And again, I could see just fine.
Yeah, because it wasn't like from diagnosis to where she is today, for example, that it wasn't a traumatic, I had vision one day, I didn't have vision the next day.
Right.
It was detected, from that initial eye exam that the fungus was active. And then it took probably from that point, probably in 3-4 years after, until all of the damage was done in both eyes. So it was a progressive loss over a 3 or 4 year period.
Oh, yeah. Well, after I gave birth to this healthy baby, and healthy is what we thought, she was healthy. We did, again, I can see I'm not having any issues. And however, when we took our daughter in for her first, I guess it was her 2-month checkup, her 2-month checkup. I'm still on maternity leave. They detected that she had a heart murmur. And again, I have not experienced any of this. However, as this was coming about, we just thought it was a heart murmur. Yeah, people live with heart murmurs for very long. They live a very long and good life. They don't always last, these heart murmurs. That's what we were told. And it was, as I was coming off of maternity leave, I needed to renew my driver's license. And that's when the story came out of I couldn't see. And of course, I'm not taking this as serious as I should be, because I didn't think it was a permanent damage. However, when they did start treating me, trying to find out what it was, the fungus became active again. And within the next couple of months, it really took off. At the same time, our daughter's heart condition grew. And so just within a few months, I found out that there was hemorrhaging behind the right eye. I was already at legal blind 2200 and going crazy, whatever this fungus was. And simultaneously along with that, it went from the heart murmur to pediatric cardiologist to discover there were 2 other congenital heart defects regarding one of the valves internally,
and the aorta itself, all of which would have been surgically correctable had she lived long enough to have a heart large enough for them to go in and do some things with. So it was these things. Keep in mind they were parallel. So as the blood accumulation in her right eye was happening, and then she was going to be going to Walter Reed for specialized care there. And that left me home taking care of our son, and then running these consecutive appointments with Rachel.
Yeah. So we had a son. We have a son. He was 7 at the time, and then with this hemorrhaging, they told me I needed to go to Walter Reed. They air-evac'd me. Actually, they one of those planes that you go on and there's nothing but medical people there. It was almost a whirlwind, because all of this stuff was happening that had not been happening. And on top of that, having to leave my daughter, who is just our daughter, of course I took that, took that personal possession there. Here my daughter is needing to go to Children's Mercy in Kansas City for a cardiac catheterization. And I don't even know what those things are. And I'm being flown out within weeks of finding all of these things out. So it was really a whirlwind is a nice way to put it. It was kind of not knowing what's going on, but
if I had to articulate it, it would be confusing, hurting, helpless, and you just and a measure of hopefulness, because you're just taking the next step. The doctor says, okay, this is the next phase. So you take that next step. So it really is a combination of all of that together.
Yeah, a lot of emotion for sure. Now, I am a woman of faith. So I was trusting that God would take care of me and take care of Robert, allowing Robert, who is still active duty, to be able to take care of our daughter as well as our son. Again, he was 7. So that being said, unfortunately, when I got to Walter Reed and they did a surgery, it's called a vitrectomy, I couldn't leave. It's not funny, but when you think you're done, you can come home. It wasn't. They had to seal my retina with a gas bubble. And when you have one of those in your eyes, and I'm sure you can relate to some of this stuff, I couldn't fly back for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. I was stuck in the hospital. And they took great care of me. It's just that I was stuck there, and Robert was here, not able to help me there, as he was assisting and tending to our daughter and our son and all of her appointments. And so that was kind of a whirlwind, is a nice way, very confusing, and helplessness. There was a lot of that emotion when there was just nothing I could do for my daughter. So you think, I just need to do what they say so I can get back home. Mm-hmm. Still not knowing if I was going to be able to get any of this sight back, but hearing that it wasn't likely that I would ever see again out of my right eye. Yeah.
Because it was permanent. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I can relate to some of the things you're talking about, Jeanie, and then I can't relate to some of the things that you speak of. But it's definitely compounding problems that make life very challenging.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Robert, as someone who's supported Jeanie through these challenges, what kind of insights have you gained on resilience and support within the veterans community?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. And I do appreciate, again, the opportunity to just reflect back on this experience. We weren't connected to any veteran service organization at the time. I was still active duty. We weren't aware of the BVA. And just because the nature, the cycle of our life, we didn't affiliate with even like the VFW or the DAV. So we really drew our support from each other. When was blessed enough for her to say yes to a marriage proposal. That was an eternal commitment for me, and I think she would say the same thing. So we definitely drew support from each other. We were in this together, no matter what life had in store for us. It was going to be us, right? And then our church community, our church family. There was, we have no relatives in the state of Kansas where we currently reside and have, since the early 90s. I have no siblings. My nearest cousin is like in Texas, and Jeannie's family is in Arkansas. So that church family really did rally around us and just loved on us. When I wasn't available to take Jeannie somewhere to an appointment, there was always somebody on deck to help us through and to fill in those gaps.
So we have 6 children. Rachel's heart diagnosis or issues, of course, became more severe that we did not know about until May of 1998. And she did pass away at 31 months, which is almost 3. She was almost 3 in September of 1998. And the Army retired me in April of 98. And I was able to have that time with her. Unfortunately, I did not realize that I was pregnant when she passed away. And I ended up having a miscarriage. I didn't know I was pregnant. And after she had passed away, Robert was away, TDY, and our son Joshua and I were able to fix up this house as we had been looking for a house to buy. So we were getting out of our house, and I'd done a lot of work. And anyway, I had some complications. I had some issues, and I went to the doctor. I went to the ER, and anyway, long story short, I was pregnant, and I was miscarrying, and I did not even realize that. So after that, I told Robert, no more children, at least not for a while. And then we have 3 other healthy children, like 3 in a row. So we have 4 living children. Our oldest son, Joshua, has a family and 3 children. So we have 3 grandchildren, Colin, Carter, and McKenna. They're 7, 5, and 4. And then we have 2 other sons, Jonathan and David, 24, 23. And then our daughter, Joanna, is 21. And let's see. David is the youngest son. He's getting married in June. And Joanna is an amazing young lady who's an EMT who doesn't live in Manhattan, Kansas. She lives in Abilene, Kansas, and works there as an EMT. Now, I gave you that backstory because Joshua, who is now 35, is the only child that I have ever driven around, at least legally. So he's the only one that knew me when I could see, like, correctly. So my other children, Jonathan, David, and Joanna, they deal with my eye condition very well. They understand it. I think our youngest son, David, had the most confusing experience. We were talking about this not too long. He's getting married in June. So, you have all those little talks now. And he said, he thought it was always strange that his mom never drove him to basketball practice or football practice. I wasn't one of those, soccer moms is what I think the term was. He never played soccer. And I said, that's true. However, I don't think I missed many games at all. All of my children have played sports, and one of the biggest cheerleaders of that sport. Funny enough, I would really study their shoes or
and by studying the shoes so she could recognize them on the court to make sure that they were distinct in color or style from the other players, because she could get glimpses of that with their left eye. And an avid fan for sure. let me just add, about resiliency, from her medical retirement in 98 and the loss of our daughter, there were several years, where we homeschooled and I was still on active duty. So speaking to the character of my wife, to be able to undertake that. Now, she wasn't like teaching every class. We were incorporated systems with some online format and recorded classes and that type of a thing. But still, that was a heavy load on her shoulders that she bore phenomenally well, with our children all the way from, well, like Josh, for example, his last year in public school was like third grade. And so she did all that. Probably one of the greatest consistent struggles that I always heard for her observationally or on the telephone call when I'm checking in, how's the day going, that type of thing, would be if one of our children like skinned a knee or got a splinter or these types of things where her sight was required to take care of them and yet completely helpless to do so. So I just, to kind of paint the bigger picture, from 98 all the way through 2005 when I retired, she was teacher, mom, nurse, non-driver, chef, janitorial, all of that stuff that makes a home, she adapted and overcame.
Absolutely. I can only imagine what it's like to take care of a family with a disability like blindness and other issues that were in your life at the time. Jeanie, if you could please expand on how the Blinded Veterans Association came into your world.
From the time that I was told I had a fungus in my eyes in 1996 to the first time I went to the Blinded Rehab Center was 10 years. Now, they did reach out to me. I found out through the VA hospital in Topeka. That's the servicing VA for myself. That there was a VIS program, and so I learned a little bit about that. And then my eye doctor said, "Hey, you should go there." Well, they asked me in 2002. And then I was pregnant and they said, "Oh no, you can't go. You can't go being pregnant." And then I was able to get on the list to go in 2004. And I was all ready to go. And Robert got orders for
Iraq.
He got deployed to Iraq. And then after things settled down and he retired, I did go in 2006. And that was the first time I'd ever heard about the Blinded Veterans Association. I didn't know what it was. And, but I was like, shoot, yeah, let me sign, and I'll pay for the full membership. I was young and they, when you're young, they went by, when I joined, the BVA, they went by how old you were, as to how much it would cost. And it didn't matter. I said, I want to join this organization. I want to find out about it. I want to learn and I want to see what they can do and how I can help. I was all about education because people would look at me, Steve, it was crazy because they would say, "You don't look like you can't see." And I'm like, yeah, and I really, at first, I never went into any Great Depression or anything. But at first, when this first happened and when I was retired, when they retired me, I thought, what in the world am I going to do? I'm just a bit over 30. And they're telling me I can't work, I can't see, and I can't drive, and I can't work. I'm still thinking here, what in the world what can I do? And of course, you have that time of, okay, I've got to do something. I've got a family, and I love life. And so when this BVA came into play at the end of my stay at the Blinded Rehab Center at Hines, Illinois, I said, yeah, I want to join and I want to find out about it. And so I joined, and I just didn't find out as much as I wanted to about it. And so I wasn't really active in it. 2012, I think, I started being a little bit more interested in what it was and what it had to offer. And then
you connected
with
Paul
Mims.
Mims.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then Paul Mims reached out and he and Tim Hornick had this regional group, this Heartland regional group, and I didn't know what that was, but I knew it was affiliated with the Blinded Veterans Association. And I remember getting on a call or two, like a teleconference, there wasn't Zoom back then. And I was learning about it, and I was figuring out that there's other things that I could do. And as all of this was coming together, I'm still dealing with people that sometimes look at me like, what are you doing with that cane? You don't need that. You can see. And I have vision. I do not have good vision. I have vision in my left eye, which it's still legally blind. It's gotten worse over the years, of course. I tell my eye doctor, I said, I think probably I now need to learn how to wear glasses the way I'm supposed to instead of just magnifiers, because I said, I'm sure my eyes are old enough now that I would be at that stage that I need to go and get glasses. So I didn't know how to deal with people who didn't think, or maybe they thought I was abusing the cane because I could see, and that's not the case. I have no depth. I have no peripheral vision. I have no depth perception. And I have grown to love and care about my cane more than I thought I ever would. That's for sure. So as I continued to attend the VIST, the Visually Impaired Service Team meetings at my VA hospital, and jump in on these monthly calls that were generated by the regional group, which was supported by the Blinded Veterans Association. I wanted to find out more, and they would always talk about it. And so I started asking questions, and I can see where the BVA has, and I see why it has become so important to me, because it's blinded members organization, and it shows me that we work together. I still educate as much as I can any person that will listen to me about visual impairment. I work with veterans that I get phone calls that they say, how did you do this, or how can I get in touch with this? And I said, well, the Blinded Veterans Association, just go online and look it up, because they do not seem, and I was that veteran. I was that blinded veteran that did not see any organization out there willing to help me or to guide me. I don't want to say help, but maybe to guide me to get a better understanding, and to really see that that I can go and do things. And that sounds, I laugh because to me it's kind of funny. I knew I would be okay with my blindness, but by getting and being involved with the Blinded Veterans Association, it has shown me that I am not just a housewife, a mother that's never going to leave her house again. And sometimes I thought that.
Yeah. That was real. And observationally, as I've watched that go through, I think, let me put it to you this way: community. The BVA gave her a sense of community with people. It's a common ground, right? It's a common ground. And although we've met some incredible people that were either low vision or no vision from a variety of different circumstances, your situation is totally different than hers, and the two of your situation is totally different than Alani Bidwell and a Paul Mims and all of these great people that we've met over the years, and yet there's commonality amongst that diversity. And I think from that we draw a sense of belonging, a sense of identity, a sense of community. And then secondly, advocacy. To be, Paul Mims just recently spoke before Congress, and making them, the blinded veterans, low vision veterans, have a voice with legislation that has historically opened up more doors of resources, whether it be adaptive housing, and we could talk about the vehicle thing, the BRCs and the value that they've had. It really becomes that voice of advocacy. And you put those two things together, and look what you are doing now, and look what you have done yourself, Steve. It gives a renewed sense of purpose. Life is different from sight to no sight, but it doesn't lose purpose. Individual life does not lose purpose. And I think that's where she gained her footing over the years of going from, oh no, now what, to yes, I have a what, I have a why, and we're going after it. So probably not explaining that very well, but that's just from my heart.
No, you guys explained it very well. I completely understand. So, Robert, can you expand on what the Blinded Veterans Association Auxiliary is?
Yeah, so it's obviously a natural extension of the parent organization. I think it was conceived in 1977, I think. And then again, my first contact with them was at the convention in 2019. And yet it wasn't until 2023 that circumstances unfolded to have a 2022.
2022 in DC.
Yeah, in DC.
When you went there.
Really took another great step. But they primarily, the auxiliary is to support the BVA, and it's comprised of caregivers, family, and friends of low vision and no vision veterans. And ancillary to that would be, we back to this word, community, because we have common ground by virtue of the fact of our relationship to a low vision or no vision veteran. When Paul testified before Congress, and we were just with him this last weekend, he said there are 130,000 low vision, no vision veterans on the VA roster as it relates to the VIS coordinators and all of that. 130,000 that's just on the books. There's more out there, but those are just the ones that's on the books. And so there is a large community of people that are caring for and care about those 130,000. And yet our membership currently doesn't reflect that by no stretch of the imagination. The auxiliary, it was an older population just by default. And as I'm speaking towards my first contact 2019 up through 2023, there was little engagement and very few people really stepping up and into the roles to keep it vibrant. And the convention in DC, they were really put at an ultimatum. They needed to get those positions. 2022. They needed to get, thank you, Jeanie. They needed to get those positions filled, or the parent organization was going to disassociate from the auxiliary. And fortunately, there was enough people in attendance that did not want that to happen, and that volunteered to step up and step into the vital roles. So I walked into that room as a member of the auxiliary, and I walked out of that room as the president of the auxiliary. And we left there with some great people that, again, I don't want to leave anybody out, but folks like Curtis Lilly, whose veteran is Marlene Davis Lilly, Sherry Bates in Oklahoma, and Corinne Myron here in Kansas, Kathy Farrow, Tracy's wife, Roxy Williams, Sue Cantrell. These are people that were present in the room that did not want to see the auxiliary go away. And we left there with some key initiatives. We had to get relevant with our bylaws so that they reflected current technologies and current issues. We needed to get stand up a membership committee so that we could get a true handle on who are our current members and who are our expired members, and let's do buddy checks. We had several people making calls through that membership roster to check on the member and also their veteran. How are you and how are things going? The auxiliary is back. We're rebuilding. We would love to have more consistent lines of communication open. So those are the two big things that we accomplished immediately after convention, was getting a bylaw committee in place and getting a membership committee in place. Since that convention last year, we've met monthly, and we've made some great progress. Our bylaw revision is about 70% done, and our goal is to get that done by the end of May so that we can go through the protocols of getting them approved. And we're very thankful for the BVA's help on this matter. The staff judge advocate of the BVA is also putting his eyes and kind of guiding us along that process. Our membership has increased. We have some great district leaders within the BVA that is getting the word out that the auxiliary is back and we are here for one another. We've grown. I just processed new memberships last week, so 52% in membership increase since the convention last year. So really excited about that. We are holding our third member town hall tomorrow evening. Trying to do those every other month, where we can give our members kind of an update on our progress since convention, and then of course communicating what we know about the location and all of the happenings at the upcoming convention in Jacksonville. And as well as I got a special speaker coming tomorrow to our meeting from Honor Alert. That is a fall detection device that is available to veterans through the VA at no cost to them. And so really excited to have him on and share that technology story. And I don't know who we're going to have the next time, but I just want to see a community of mutual support and encouragement and communication, because we need it. Our experiences are unique as well, and we need each other. And everybody's story is important. And one person's story can encourage another, and there's a domino effect to that. And we don't have to be alone in our experience with the veterans that we love and care for, when we know that there are hundreds of thousands of others out there in similar circumstances. Diversity, but yet commonality.
I guess looking back on your journey, both of you, what are you most proud of?
Overcomer. That's the word, overcomer. Ever since Jeanie became aware of the BRC, for example, there was a willingness to go and to not only just go, but embrace the training and the technologies, and then bring them home and put them into practice, because there are so many things there that kind of you can't completely fill the gap, but you can bridge the gap as it relates to day-to-day activities and vision loss. And so just that's one piece of it. And then through the BVA, there was so many people that she's gotten into contact with. And I mean, she's done the scaling, rappelling the wall that the Rangers are trained on in Georgia. I mean, I did rappelling out of helicopters, but I was a lot younger then. I wouldn't even think about doing it now. And here she is, going to do that. Skiing, and she would go skydiving if there was an adaptive sports organization. But that's just her resiliency to live life to the fullest and to not let that be a hindrance. And then you meet others that have done, other phenomenal things. Lonnie, we both know and love him. I'll leave his story to tell because only he could tell it the best. It's just an inspiration, right? So overcomer, that's what I'm most proud of, her character trait.
I think that's lovely. That's great. And I do understand what Robert is saying about you, Jeanie. I believe sometimes these negative things that we hear from people because of their lack of understanding, or they're uneducated or not informed well enough about what visual disabilities are, what blindness is, because there's a large spectrum. They can say things to us, to people who have a disability, and it can have an adverse negative effect on someone's mental health. It challenges us. It makes us feel things. And sometimes we choose not to go to learn about rehab or something because of the compounding challenges. Maybe you can, expand on this, Jeanie.
To feel when this happened to me, I'm like, man, I'm too young not to work. I was crushed when they retired me medically or whatever. It didn't matter how much money they were going to give me or percentage or whatever you want to call that. I joined the Army later on in life, and my goals were so high. And then not to be able to achieve those was very disappointing. However, on the flip side of that, I have a family, and I can't just not do anything. And they gave me my driver's license for 4 years. And I really even thought I could still drive. And of course I didn't drive. That was in May of 96. I gave up the car keys in August of 96, the same year, because it really went downhill. Whatever these procedures were really making my eyes go crazy. So I say that because the devastation, and then to say, I just can't do nothing. I have a family. I love my children. I'm a baby. I've got to do something. And so of course it was climbing uphill from there. The things that I've been able to do, and the BRC was, I didn't want to go at first. I didn't want to be gone for 6 weeks or more. But I'm so glad that I did. So thank you, Robert, for saying that in regards to an overcomer. What am I most proud of in regards to myself is that I was able to look past those times when I just didn't think I could do anything. And then to just say, I'm a mom, I can do that. And those little things in regards to that. And then of course, I could not have continued without the respect and support of Robert. But that's just for me. And now to see him going on and advocating for blinded veterans through the auxiliary is just, it's like, I'm like a balloon that's ready to burst, because he spoke at our Heartland conference, and then he was able to go in and talk with the veterans and their caregivers at the Des Moines VA, at their VIS group that we were at on Friday, in regards when we were there for the Braille flag. But we were able to, they actually wanted him to, can you talk specifically about the auxiliary? And I don't know if that's ever been, if it has taken place in the past. He wasn't aware of it. And he was a member in 2019. So does that make sense? From 2019 until his own personal involvement, there was no information, there was no contact. And I'm not trying to say that was, in a negative way, but how can we know more about our auxiliary if we keep quiet about it? How can we know more about our Blinded Veterans Association if we just aren't talking about it?
Mhm.
I don't understand that, but it doesn't matter, because if you put that aside and just move forward, and reach those that don't think they're reachable. Does that make sense to you, Steve? You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, absolutely. Your voice, both your voices in this show and when you do your work are so important. It's just your recent comments and statements that people need to hear. And sometimes finding them, or finding the family that are, that are taking care of a person who's in need can be very difficult. And so that's what I hope with this show. It's just another voice. It's another way to get the word out and to get people involved. And I'm trying to find people to share the importance of the community and what we're trying to do on an individual level and as a team. And so I absolutely understand, and I'm very thankful for you guys sharing your stories. I think I only have one final question, and that's really, how can people get involved or contribute to the Blinded Veterans Association Auxiliary?
Yes, so that's a great question. We currently, this is April, May. We are merging our current website onto the BVA website so that's going to be a more streamlined process come June of 2024 and moving forward. So right now, our website is November, Bravo, Victor, Alpha, Uniform, X-ray.org. And all of our information is there, including our membership application that is downloadable with instructions on how to, where to mail that in at. Come June, thanks to the support of the BVA, we will be housed on that site. So it's a one-stop shop for both the Blinded Veterans Association and the auxiliary. And as it relates to membership application and process, we're working on streamlining that to be an online application and then an online payment process. And then, of course, my contact information is in the BVA happenings and the BVA bulletin. And I welcome any phone call or email. If I can't answer it right away, I will get back to you.
Awesome. I really appreciate the information you just provided. It's very important. And I really hope to have both of you on in the future, maybe individually, together, to talk more about different things as time marches on. But I just want to thank you again for both being on the show.
You bet, Steve. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for making others aware of what is available. So thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you all so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and a special thanks to Robert and Jeanie Murphy. Like I mentioned in the introduction of this episode, go and register for the BVA National Convention at bva.org/national-convention. And if you enjoy listening to this podcast, please go and rate it on your favorite platform. Share it with the world on social media. This is Steve Baskus, signing off. You're listening to a BVA production.